The goal was simple, at least on paper. I'd waltz into Chapter 4, solo the level, loot the area, carve my way to the Nagamaki, and save. No distractions, no deeters, just precision and patience. Meanwhile, Sub, Glyph, and Jin would grind out their levels, stocking up for the inevitable nightmare rematch against the Obsidian Samurai. The horror fight, as Glyph now insisted on calling it. In the lab, the air buzzed with the energy of a squad getting ready for war. "I still don't get it," Sub muttered, pulling up his stats on a side screen. "Why risk soloing Chapter 4 just for the Nagamaki? You've got enough weapons in your arsenal to open a museum already." Because Glyph cut in before I could answer, the Nagamaki isn't just any weapon. "Sub, you coded the stupid thing. You know the stat boosts it gives: reach, durability, cleave potential. It's basically designed to break bosses." Sub shrugged, but he couldn't hide the twitch of a smile. "Yeah, well, good luck getting there without triggering half a dozen traps that were never meant to be soloed. That's where I come in," I said evenly, adjusting my headset. "I don't plan on fighting everything. Just what I need to. The rest, I'll outthink." Jin leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching the three of us with his usual financier skepticism. "As long as you don't burn another 20 hours chasing loot that won't even make it to release, I'm fine with this. But just so you know, if you wipe, that's on you. Don't expect me to bankroll your ego." I grinned. Duly noted. Across the room, Dev was quiet, scrolling through lines of code on her monitor. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, eyes narrowing at the console. "So, while we're all busy chasing loot and bragging rights, I've been asked to work on temporarily removing the patch that nerfed the Obsidian Samurai." Sub nearly choked on his energy drink. "Wait, removing it? Are you nuts? The thing already wiped the floor with us." "That's the point," Dev said calmly, though I didn't miss the tiny smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. "If he's bugged and spawning in Chapter 1, we need a way to test his full intended difficulty. Otherwise, you'll never know how players will handle him later in the story." Glyph let out a low whistle. "She's right. Better to fight the monster we designed, not the watered-down version." Jin pinched the bridge of his nose. "Right? Because making him harder when you're all already traumatized is exactly what this project needs." The room buzzed with tension, strategy, and banter. But in the back of my mind, the mission was crystal clear. Solo Chapter 4. Loot the Nagamaki. Say, the Obsidian Samurai would come later. And when he did, we'd be ready. The rice field swayed like a restless ocean beneath the evening sky, stalks bending under the weight of the humid air. Every footstep I took felt loud, too loud, crunching wet earth and snapping husks. The fort loomed in the distance beyond the bamboo line, its silhouette jagged and dark like the shadow of something waiting. I crouched low, exhaled, and summoned them. The mystic flute shimmered in my hand. One sharp note split the silence, and smoke spiraled from the ground around me. Out of it stepped three shadow clone ninjas, their armor thin, their movements imitating mine in fragments of precision. "Let's see what you're worth," I muttered. I equipped them with ordinary steel, a short katana, a pair of tantos, and one crude spear. They bowed their heads in unison before fanning out. The first clash came quick. A pair of enemy ninjas darted from the rice stalks, blades flashing. My clones intercepted them, steel against steel. For a moment, I thought they might hold, their forms disciplined, strike sharp. The clones cut the enemy down fast, steel biting flesh. But then the samurai came. Heavy armored footsteps, slow and deliberate. One of the shadow clones rushed forward with its tanto. The samurai swatted him aside with a single cut, armor shrugging off the blow like rain off stone. Another clone lunged with a spear, only to be caught by the wrist and split open with a single downward slash. By the time the last clone tried to circle wide, two more samurai joined in. Their blades didn't just break the clone's weapon, they shredded his shadow body into smoke, dispersing him in seconds. I watched all three vanish. My jaw tightened. So that was the test. Against weak enemies, they were assassins. Against armored samurai, they were fodder. Disposable distractions at best. The fields were quiet again, but not for long. I stood, hand drifting to my katana. Enough testing. The bamboo forest yawned ahead, tall and crowded, shadows sliding between stalks. And the samurai were waiting. The first came at me with a broad naginata. I pivoted sideways, caught the shaft with my armored forearm, and ripped him forward with a judo sweep. My knee crushed into his helmet as he went down. Another swung with a heavy blade. I dropped low, slammed a palm strike into his ribs, then used his momentum to fling him into the rice paddies. They kept coming. Samurai didn't crumble like ninjas. Every blow I landed echoed in my bones. Every parry sparked against my armor. My breath slowed, deliberate, my body in that razor's edge rhythm between caution and violence. This wasn't a skirmish anymore. This was me pressing deeper into the bamboo, toward the fort, toward the hidden nagamaki. I cut down another samurai, his armored body dropping heavy into the dirt. The bamboo forest was thick with silence, but the kind of silence that breathes. I could feel the fortress pulling me in, but the samurai weren't about to let me waltz through. The first one broke from the stalks, yari raised in a wide arc. His reach should have been overwhelming, but reach meant little when I was already inside his guard. I slid forward, tanto flashing. A slash to his wrist made him flinch, his grip loosening just enough. I caught the shaft, twisted, and drove my knee into the joint of his armor. The crunch echoed. He fell. One strike to the throat slit the gap under his helm. I didn't have time to breathe. Two more came. One katana, one naginata. Their footwork was deliberate, like wolves circling prey. The katana wielder struck first, a diagonal slash. I parried with my tanto. Sparks cracked against the short blade, and I twisted under, my other hand snapping into his ribs with a palm strike. He staggered, but the naginata wielder closed in. I ducked low, blade scraping the shaft aside, and answered with a flurry, slash to the knee joint, strike to the elbow gap, a final upward stab into the armpit seam. The tanto wasn't made for brute force. It was a scalpel, and I carved through armor piece by piece until both bodies fell to the dirt. I exhaled. Not relief, just reset. The fourth ambushed me from behind a stalk. Heavy armor, dual tantos, faster than the rest. His blade slashed in wild succession, steel ringing against steel as I parried. He was good, better than good. But precision wins wars. I let him come close, let him believe he had me on the back foot. At the last moment, I pivoted into him, my elbow smashing into his jaw through the mask. He reeled, and that's when I drove my tanto straight into the neck gap of his armor. He dropped without a sound. The fifth and sixth came together. Brothers in rhythm, twin katanas flashing in mirrored strikes. My tanto was too short to block both. I gave ground, each step sharp and calculated, letting their rhythm pull them closer, closer. Then I broke the rhythm. I lunged into the left one, chest to chest, blade sinking deep under his chin. His brother's sword screamed across my shoulder plate, sparks scattering off the futuristic alloy. I felt the impact jolt my bones, but my armor held. I spun into him, tanto slashing his wrist, then his knee, then his throat in 3 precise motions. He fell beside his brother. I was breathing hard now. The tanto was slick with blood, my muscles burning from the effort of slipping through armor. But there was no stopping. The seventh came with a nagamaki, a weapon almost unfair against my small blade. His strike split a bamboo stalk clean in 2, the shards raining down. I slipped under, my tanto carving 3 quick cuts into his thigh plates. Not deep enough. He growled, swung again, and I had to roll into the mud to avoid being cleaved. I waited for the opening. One mistimed slash, one overextension. When it came, I struck like lightning. Tanto up under the helmet seam, twisting. He gurgled and dropped. The bamboo closed around me like a cage of green spears, every step sinking into wet soil and hushed leaves. The air was heavier here, close to the fortress, and I could feel it eyes, always watching. The samurai came in 1s and 2s, testing me, forcing me to stay sharp. One lunge from behind a stalk, katana raised high. I ducked, rolled, and came up with a rising elbow that cracked against his helmet. The impact rattled my bones, but the force staggered him. My follow-up kick shoved him back into a bamboo stalk, so hard it snapped. Another crept in close with yari, the blade sweeping low to cut my legs. I shifted my weight, caught the shaft under my arm, and wrenched it sideways. His own momentum carried him into my spinning back fist, the strike ringing like a hammer against an anvil. He dropped hard. The fight went on like that. Each battle tight, brutal, purposeful. Every swing, every counter, every throw felt like it mattered. By the time I finally cut the last samurai down, my breathing was steady but deliberate. The fortress loomed ahead, the bamboo daimyo's lair. But I wasn't stepping through those gates yet. Not without looting first. I turned back into the fields, retracing my steps like a predator reclaiming his kills. Where the bodies of samurai lay, rewards shimmered faintly in the mud. My HUD flickered faintly as I gathered. Iron scraps, steel fragments, leather bindings, bamboo stalks cured for crafting. A bundle of black powder bombs tucked into a lacquered case. A musket upgrade kit, its polished barrel gleaming, an attachment that promised longer range and sharper accuracy. A counter pouch hidden in the bamboo forest. And then, buried half-submerged in the muck near the edge of the patties, a silver treasure chest. It hummed with faint light as I pried it open. The hinges squealed, giving way to a neat row of rewards, rare crafting ores, a pouch of gold coins, and a small vial of what looked like liquid fire. My HUD registered it instantly. Molten resin, fused with melee weapons for temporary flame enchantment. I tightened my grip around the vial, a grin tugging at my lips. This wasn't just looting. This was preparation. By the time I turned back toward the fortress gates, my inventory was heavy and my mind was sharper. The bamboo daimyo waited inside, and I was ready. The fortress loomed just ahead. The fortress gates groaned open as if they had been waiting centuries just for me. Lantern light flared in the courtyard beyond, painting the bamboo walls in gold and shadow. I stepped inside, Tanto ready, and the gate slammed shut behind me with a finality that echoed in my chest. A drumbeat rolled across the courtyard. Boom, boom, slow, heavy, ritualistic. Then he stepped into the light. The bamboo daimyo. His armor was lacquered in green and gold, layered with ornate bamboo plating that looked grown, not forged. A black mask hid his face, carved into a permanent snarl. Across his back rested a Yumi, taller than he was, strung with black cord. At his waist hung a curved katana, its sheath marked with winding vines, and in his free hand, he toyed with 3 kunai, flipping them between his fingers with inhuman ease. The cinematic tightened in on his mask, then cut to his hand as he notched an arrow in the Yumi with casual grace. The arrow hissed through the air, grazing the side of my helm, embedding in the wall behind me. The fight was on. The daimyo moved with no rhythm, no logic. One moment he was across the courtyard, Yumi bending under his draw, arrows raining like thunder. I dodged left, rolled right, the shafts biting into the dirt and stone around me. Even with my futuristic armor, I couldn't afford to take too many. Each arrow that connected chipped me down. The next moment, he closed the distance with a whirl of steel, katanas singing through the air. His strikes weren't chained combos or neat martial sequences. They were raw, chaotic. High slashes broken by sudden stabs. Wide arcs that cut into the ground followed by a low sweep of the blade. No rhythm meant no prediction. And when I thought I had a kunai flashed from his hand, one burying itself in my shoulder plate, another glancing off my thigh guard. I gritted my teeth. No pattern. No comfort. He's built to punish assumptions. I slid inside his guard, Tanto sparking off his katana. He shoved me back with brute force, then immediately leapt away, Yumi already rising for another volley. I sprinted, closing the gap before he could fire, tackling in hard into the stone wall. His armor thudded against the stone, and for a moment I thought I had him. Then the kunai came, point blank. I twisted, but one slashed across my cheek plate. Another grazed my ribs. He rolled free, rising into a half-crouch with his katana already back in play. My breath echoed inside my helmet. Every strike was costly. Every dodge had to be perfect. The courtyard itself seemed alive, bamboo stalks casting shifting shadows as the firelight flickered. The daimyo blended with them, vanishing between strikes, forcing me to listen for the whistle of arrows or the whisper of his sandals scraping stone. The fight was long. Not difficult in the way of brute strength, but draining, because I never knew what was coming next. And then, when I managed to carve his health bar down by the slimmest fraction, the screen flickered into a cutscene. The bamboo daimyo lifted his mask just enough to let a chilling smirk show, then slammed his katana into the earth. Bamboo stalks burst from the courtyard stones, forming a shifting maze of green walls. He stepped back into the shadows, Yumi raised, his voice rolling like thunder. Find me if you can. Survive me if you dare.